how much people were they? How much were they free to move around? In terms of like exercising their democratic rights, freedom of movement, freedom of speech.
That's what I just mentioned to you, Paus. Under the PPP regime, Doi was persecuted. NCP members were persecuted. Several hundreds of people were in Mile 2 because.
So how about the Gambian?
Give me a minute. Most people, what happened in 1981? Many people who were known to be open critics of PPP. The PPP capitalized on the 1981 coup to crack down on these people. Mai Fatty himself came out and said he was jailed as a teenager by the PPP just because of being an activist. Yeah, he was jailed for days by the PPP regime. People were imprisoned in prison cells, overcrowded prison cells by PPP, and they started dying in the cells, and they had to free them because of overcrowding. So when you talk about freedom of speech, during PPP era, they deliberately made left Gambians ignorant to stifle every single opportunity of challenging them. They kept Gambia in the dark. No university, no government schools built by the PPP, no government hospitals built by the PPP. There were only 2 radio stations, Radio Kebba, which was falsely called Radio Gambia, because when you pass Kafuta or Bullock, you started getting scrambled signals. In those days, you see the Fulas and Seres climbing mango trees to put their antennas up, or the roofs of their houses to put antennas up to be able to tune to Radio Kebba, which was called Radio Gambia. All right? No television. So when you're talking about freedom of speech, the proliferation of media only happened under President Jammeh, because under PPP, we only had Radio Gambia and Radio Seed. All right? When President Jammeh came, he truly made Radio Gambia. He could tune to it all the way to Koina. Even Senegalese villages and towns near the border were tuning into Radio Gambia. He didn't stop there. He turned it into a television station. People could tune to Gambian television station for the first time. What more freedom of speech do you want? Under President Jammeh, the newspapers, there was a proliferation of newspapers. There was a proliferation of radio stations.
Was it accessible to? Now we have these things right now. Now, can you please explore the quality and the content that these things were? Was any political opposition party leader or any Gambian or anybody willing and able to speak anyhow you want, whatever you want on these things you said were provided for?
Of course. Okay. Ousainou Darboe was talking for 20 years before he was jailed for offenses against the Public Order Act. Though he was talking
on state TV?
Were they given airtime on state TV? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just... Yeah. No, whether were they allowed freely to speak on these mediums online openly? Okay.
Sidia Jatta, Halifa Sallah, Samsar, others, they were all speaking freely. None of them was picked up because they spoke freely. The only time Halifa Sallah was charged was when he was suspected of a crime, which he was later freed by the courts. Sidia Jatta would never go into trouble. Hamad Ba never go into trouble. Ousainou Darboe never go into trouble. They were talking all the time. There was a proliferation of newspapers under President Jammeh. There was a proliferation of journalism under President Jammeh. There was a proliferation of political parties under President Jammeh. People were talking, but when the state had an issue, is when you were involved in anything that would incite violence or destabilize the state. Sometimes intelligence information can be false. Sometimes security services can go heavy-handed. It can happen in a government, but we have to accept that it happened under a government. Over 1,000 were killed between 1981 and another time. And then after that, arrests continued until 1989 of people who were suspected of being Moja or SRLP or being against the PPP government. PPP officials were beating people up. I heard even Bibi Darboe was slapping people in his office. Slapping people up.
Is there any chance for him so I can
let
me finish because he spoke for a long time. So when we're talking about
for him to counter these claims,
when we talk in a minute, when we're talking about human rights record, the reason why everyone seems to think President Jammeh is worse is because under President Jammeh, people were aware, people were waking up, people were educated, people were doing their things, people, universities were available, people were beginning to see what was happening outside of the Gambia. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, they cannot come around and say, oh, PPP time, this is what happened. PPP deliberately kept Gambians ignorant for their own sake to entrench themselves. PPP had the opportunity to institute a television station. They refused. They didn't upgrade Radio Gambia. They didn't bring about a university in our country. President Jammeh created all of that. And that's what you give. When you come to human rights, educating people, providing medical services, training your own Gambian doctors on Gambian soil, making them qualified medical doctors, was made possible by President Jammeh. Hospitals becoming closer to people's homes and towns was made possible by President Jammeh. Schools closer to people's homes was made possible by President Jammeh. Electricity up in the countryside everywhere was made possible by President Jammeh. Internet coverage and mobile phone coverage everywhere in the country was made possible by President Jammeh. All right? Okay. So therefore, when it comes to the right of people to get educated, the right to medical services, the right to communication, 800 kilometers of tarmac was built by President Jammeh.
Okay, Lamin, can we Nanko, can you counter these claims, or
Lamin,
if you want to make any correction or any counter argument?
What we are saying, because I don't even have to talk about that. Yeah, Jammeh is the dictator that has created a lot of fear, censorship. Under his government, our women were raped. Under his government, people were tortured. Under his
I tell you what, 1981 babies, there are plenty 1982 babies from the forces in 1981. I can tell you that.
This is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, but can you first counter what he said about
all what Lamin is saying here? When I hear him talking, I feel like when I was young, watching Jammeh on TV. Right? PPP government, 30 years, rampant corruption, all it is man talking. When I'm saying we talk about facts is very important. And I'm gonna establish this fact so people are listening.
So all what he's saying is not true?
Everything is completely false. Because what I'm saying, what has actually happened in 1981 coup, I told you, this is your program right now. If I said, if you have a rules here, if it's break by any of your how to call it, invited guests here, it is on you to make sure the rules you put in place are implemented, right? As a government, when you have an institutions, you have police, you have army, you have everything. When issues happen in your government, what is more ideal is to make sure you correct those mistakes and help people accountable. That's what governments do, and that's what even in our compounds, our parents will do to their kids, because those things will actually happen. So what I'm saying, what happened in 1981 coup, there are people that were actually tortured, as he alluded to, and then Sivudiba was arrested. These are facts; nobody can deny them. In order to make sure that people are held accountable, Jawara refused to use our court system. He established an international tribunal court, overseen by Amnesty International and other international bodies, to make sure every individual have a say in court. Those government officials who actually tortured people were held accountable in the first place. So the River case went thrown out and found innocent, but that did not stop him to contest the 1992 election, the election that he have right to contest to. In the first
they should have freed him, Kebba. They should keep him in prison just before election.
What I'm saying, there are a lot of allegations against Yahya Jammeh, and then what the government is trying to do is to establish a criminal court, and we all know the challenges of that. And as far as you are concerned, Yahya Jammeh is innocent until he's proven guilty. Until he's proven guilty. That's what you're gonna say, and that's natural justice. So at the time, Sidiba was accused of a crime. He was innocent. That's why he had access to everything a politician will have access to until he's found guilty, and he wasn't found guilty, period. So what Jara did was to correct, and a tribunal was set up, and everybody was tried. Like what they're trying to do for Jammeh, when they have the tribunal court, he'll be tried. If he found innocent, he will go home. If he found guilty, they will try him. That's what has actually happened there. So Gambia has the worst under Jammeh. All what Jara did, Yahya Jammeh tried to undo everything. And
but you said Jammeh's government killed about 200. And Jara government killed over 1,000.
What I'm saying, the state.
So how is Jammeh worse?
No, what I'm saying, a state. What has happened? We all were TRRC. This is something that Yahya Jammeh was indirect or direct responsible of killing. Listen, Gambians, we all were TRRC. This is not something that we can just put on the side. People are hurt. Let's accept the fact.
Yeah.
This was state-sanctioned murder. I'm talking about state sanctioned murder. It's a different from when we have rebels come to the country trying to overthrow a government. People, citizens stand to defend their own country. They fight against the Kukoi team and other people. Eventually, people lost their life.
People lost their lives in many
now, what I'm saying,
ways.
What is evidence in that? What is evidence is that Kukoi went to the Gambia trying to overthrow the government, the democratic elected government. At that time, Gambia have no army. We have Philly force. Right? Those people have no control. In fact, it was Philly force. Because Gambia was so peaceful that Jordan see the needs to even have an army in the first place, because he feel that there is no need for it, because everybody was happy. It's an environment.